Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to sew a face mask. This project is available in CRICUT Design Space. Although this mask will offer you some protection, it is not N95 equivalent for COVID-19 virus. For more information about personal protection, please check the CDC guidelines. So I've got my pieces cut out according to the Design Space pattern, and I've used my fabric pen, my CRICUT fabric pen, to draw in my seam allowance. You can see that in the pattern, the outside pieces are actually longer than the inside pieces, and this is done so that you can make a channel for your elastic. So you know these longer pieces, they're numbered 1 and they're your outside pieces. This is my lining. The first thing I'm going to do is line them up, right sides together. We'll do the same for both. And we're going to sew this outside curve. The outside curve only. Don't go on this. Don't sew the sides or the bottom. Only the outside curve on both pieces. I'm going to do that and I'll be back to show you the next step. Okay, so I've stitched all the way along my outside curve only, and I've cut into the fabric on the curve so that it gives you a better shape when you turn it right side out. And then I press toward one side, my seam towards one side, and I top stitch along one side where that in the direction that my seam is pressed to give a finish and to hold the shape. You can see that it holds the shape much better when you do that. So that's done. After I did that, I repressed and then I turned in my first quarter on each side for the outside panels and the lining panels. I press in that little 1/4 inch on the end, and what I'm going to do now is sew up and down both sides. And I should have mentioned, when you sew your curves, when you do any sewing on this, you want to make sure that you double stitch, back stitch at the beginning and the end to reinforce those seams. You don't want them coming apart when you're pulling your elastic or even when you're assembling it. So you want to make sure that you double stitch, back stitch at the beginning and the end to keep it reinforced. So I'm going to sew those 1/4 inch seams now, and I'll be back to show you the next step. And we're back. And we've done our 1/4 inch seam along both sides on the lining pieces and on your outside pieces. You still have your fold line visible here. You're not going to sew anything there right away. So the next thing that we're going to do is attach our lining and outside together. You're going to line them up. Make sure you nest your seams. Make sure your seams match up in the center. I'm just going to stick a clip in it to keep it in place. There we go. And do the same on the bottom. Going to make sure my seams go in opposite directions, my seam allowance, so that we don't get a big bump. Just like you do when you're quilting. Nest your seams in opposite directions. We'll put a clip in there. And along the side. Both sides. And we're all ready. So now we're going to sew across the top and across the bottom. Do not sew the sides. If you sew the sides, you won't be able to add a filter to it and you won't be able to turn it right side out. So do not sew the sides, only the top and the bottom. So we'll get that done and I'll be back to show you the next step. And here we are with our lining and our outside assembled together. I've stitched right along the top and along the bottom, reinforcing my stitches by back stitching at both ends, beginning and finish. And now we're going to use the opening in the sides to turn our mask right side out. And I hope as you're watching this, you're saying, wow, this is easy. I can do this. Because it is really easy. It's a great file from CRICUT. I love it. Okay, so you want to push out your seams, roll them out so they're nice and straight. And we're going to give them a good press. I'm going to go to my ironing station and I'm going to give this a good press, and at the same time that I press down my seams, I'm going to press this little fold down also. These little folds here, I'm going to press them down also. Once everything is pressed, I'm going to top stitch along all the top and all the bottom. And when I top stitch, I'm going to include going right across these folds. On the first one that I made, I didn't go right across and I found it difficult to get the elastic through. So it's a good idea to go right across when you top stitch. So you want to have that little fold here. It's just 1/4 inch. And on this side, you won't need the clips once you press it down. Once you do all your pressing, and go, when you top stitch, go right across both sides, right across to the ends. So let's get the pressing done and the top stitch done, and I'll be back to show you how to complete this mask. It's coming along beautifully. And here we are, almost done. My top stitching is done across the top and the bottom, and I've gone right to the end to make it easier to insert the elastic afterwards. I've pressed down this overhang against the opening. We don't want to sew it closed. You want to keep this open for a filter or for an extra piece of fabric to make it a little stronger. So what you're going to do is press the overhang down. You're going to sew, as mentioned, avoid that opening. You're going to sew just along the edge of this fold over, back stitch at both ends, and make sure that you're leaving enough space for your elastic to go through. So just close to the edge, back stitching at both ends on both sides, and then we'll be done, and all we have left to do is add our elastic. So I'll get that done, I'll press it, and I'll be back to show you. And here we have it, we're done sewing. This is the inside. You can see that my pocket is open, so you can add a filter or an extra piece of fabric to the inside if you want to make it a little more dense. I have my channels sewn for my elastic on the sides. I should have chosen a lighter color so you could see it more easily. This is the outside. I guess you could actually use it as reversible if you wanted to. If you don't mind having this opening on the outside, you could actually reverse it. So we're going to go ahead and add the elastic. That's all we have left to do. I only have 1/8 inch elastic. Unfortunately, I'm just going to tie it on to my pin. I won't put my pin through it because I don't want to tear the elastic. It's very fine. And we're just going to feed this all the way through. Everybody seems to be sold out of 1/4 inch elastic. I've tried Amazon, anywhere I could think of, even to have it delivered and pay for delivery, but everybody seems to be sold out. The only elastic I found online was 1 inch, and that's awfully too big. So we want to push it all the way through. Okay, so you're going to pull your elastic all the way through to the other end. Make sure you don't pull this through too far. And push through again to come out the bottom. Okay, we have it out the bottom. I'm going to take it off. Whoops, I didn't need to undo that. There we go. Now I'm just going to take these two ends. If you're using a thicker elastic, you can cross them over and attach them together with a zigzag stitch. But this is very thin elastic, and I'm sure that won't hold. So I'm just going to tie a knot in it. I'm going to leave this extra because what I'll do is pull that up inside the channel so that you won't see it. I don't want to cut that too short and have the knot come undone. So just pull it up in the channel. There we go. And you can't see the knot at all. We'll even out the elastic. And it's done. So there's your mask. All done. Simple enough. This one that I cut is a small, medium adult. I tried it on this first one that I cut and it fit perfectly. If you don't have elastic, you can always use ribbons or ties. Anything like that will do the trick. So I hope this video will help you make some of these face masks. Thank you to CRICUT for this terrific project, and thank you for watching.